Plato's Allegory of the Cave explains the role of education and higher knowledge in a society. He tells of prisoners raised in a dark cave, one of whom is suddenly exposed to the outside light, or formal knowledge of the real world. This prisoner experiences pain, but also gratitude for his increased understanding of the world. His allegory describes the process of release into the light, as well as the prisoner's return to the cave and subsequent reactions of the other prisoners still in the cave. The allegory goes hand in hand with Plato's analogy of the sun and line, which depicts two realms of knowledge on a line, with the sun representing the good, or the arche, which means governing principle. In this project, we will delve deeper into these ideas and explain Plato's purpose behind these ideas.
With his allegory of the cave, Plato is trying to illustrate the effect of education on the soul. More specifically, Plato is trying to tell us that complete and true knowledge may require isolation or separation from others, yet it is necessary for someone to bring you into the light of knowledge.
It is important to understand Plato's analogy of the sun and line because the allegory of the cave builds heavily off of those foundational ideas. The analogy tries to describe knowledge in moving from visible reality to reality in which one truly understands the forms that are governed by the arche of good, which is the cause of all that is correct and beautiful in anything.
Plato describes a line with two unequal parts representing the sensible realm at the bottom and the intelligible realm at the top. Each realm is then divided into two parts. Starting at the bottom of the line, or the base level of knowledge, is the images, shadows, and representations, which is all opinion, testimony, or imagination. The second lowest level consists of observations, beliefs, or concrete particulars of an object. Then, beginning the intelligible realm, is the level of formal knowledge. The forms are the essential components of an object that make it what it is, or differentiate it from other similar objects. The fourth and highest level of knowledge is the complete understanding of relationships between different forms. However, at the very top of the line is the sun, representative of the goodness that allows you to see the knowledge of the intelligible realm and is regulatory of everything.
To contextualize this, we could discuss the knowledge of an apple tree. The first base level of knowledge would be the ability to imagine what an apple tree looks like, or seeing a picture of it on the internet. The second level would be the ability to make observations about a real apple tree, such as its color, shape, or what it is producing. Crossing over into the intelligible realm, the third level of knowledge, or the formal knowledge of an apple tree, would be knowing the essential properties that make it an apple tree. For example, its chemical makeup, that it flowers to produce apples, how it grows from a seed, or whatever else may distinguish it from other objects and other types of trees. The final level of knowledge would be knowing the tree's relationship with those other objects in nature, such as how it needs water to survive, or that apples could provide food for certain animals.
The allegory of the cave begins with a group of prisoners who have been raised in a dark cave their whole lives. They are bound and therefore unable to move or look anywhere other than straight ahead at the cave walls. There is a fire behind and above them where other people, not prisoners, are holding objects and puppets so that they cast shadows on the cave walls in front of the prisoners.
Because of their limited access to movement, the prisoners have never seen anything of themselves and one another besides the shadows that the fire casts on the wall of the cave. They know nothing about the world except the things they can perceive through sensory observations like shadows or the sound of movement from people behind them. This purely imaginary understanding of the world represents Plato's base level of knowledge. It is an understanding of objects only through illusions, shadows, or pictures. Additionally, Plato is using the puppeteers to represent people such as politicians who spread convincing yet very surface level and illusory knowledge. When the prisoners cannot see anything other than the puppeteers' shadows, they have no reason to believe there may be more than just those shadows.
Therefore, the prisoners spend their time talking about what each shadow is. The most sharpest at identifying the shadows, remembering which usually came earlier, and who was best able to prophesize the future would be honored. One of the prisoners is dragged from his seat by the others, first to the fire behind them. When he sees the fire, it hurts his eyes, but as he adjusts, he realizes where the sounds and shadows are coming from. He has reached Plato's second level of knowledge, which includes observations, beliefs, and concrete particulars.
He is then dragged above ground into the sunlight. Again, he is in great pain but can see real objects in nature. This is Plato's third level, the forms, which is the first level within the higher intelligible realm. The sun allows him to see the forms and their relation to each other, which is the fourth level and is the cause of everything. The sun, which could only be seen by the prisoner with toil and trouble, is analogous to the arche of the good. After taking in the real world, the prisoner returns to the cave, wanting to share his complete knowledge with the other prisoners. They beat him and call him crazy and dangerous, not believing there is more to the world than the shadows and dark cave.
We think that Plato is trying to explain the unwillingness of those to become educated. He believes that it takes force from another enlightened individual to bring knowledge upon someone. He shows that it might not seem like the person bringing light upon the prisoner is doing something good in the moment. The prisoner was unwilling to leave the cave and didn't think he wanted to go, but once he finally sees the real world in light, or the forms, he understands.
His allegory also represents how a true education might require one to separate from the unenlightened masses in order to fully receive true knowledge. When the prisoner was brought up into the light, he left all of the others in the cave. He was separated from all of his peers and forced to experience his enlightenment all by himself. However, once he obtains full understanding, he feels a responsibility to go back and share his knowledge with the rest of the cave, since anyone who is to act sensibly must see the highest level of knowledge governed by goodness. The prisoner wishes to give back to the others what the philosopher who took him out of the cave gave to him. However, he was not received well, and they did not believe him, demonstrating how full knowledge of the forms might isolate one from all the others still in the sensible realm.
While we may not necessarily agree with the idea that someone must be forced to come into the light and to gain knowledge, we do agree with Plato's ideas regarding the isolation of higher knowledge. Because of how much easier it is to believe the shadows and how difficult it is to see the intelligible realm when so many others refuse to stray from their sensible beliefs, it can be isolating to search for and gain formal knowledge. However, we do think now, in this age, with all of our many resources, the forceful push into the light might not be necessary.
To conclude, we believe that Plato's allegory of the cave and the analogy of the sun and line speak to the acquisition of knowledge and the isolation that this brings, as well as the necessity of force in this process. We agree with the idea that higher knowledge might bring isolation, but think that this is easier to come by now with all of the modern resources we have available.